Mr. Alex Uballez. How are you, sir?
Pleasure to be here. I'm
Oh
great
man,
today.
man.
Yeah.
Look, I want to tell you first off, it is an honor to interview a mayoral candidate of such stature as yours.
Mm,
You have had a great career
thank you.
leading up to this. Um, we don't know why you're taking a pay cut, but thank you anyways.
Thank you.
You being, are you the first Mexican Asian candidate to run?
So I think Mei Ling Armijo is Hispanic and Asian as well.
Is that right?
I think so.
So this is the first time we've actually had two.
Too. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Of course, first name Mei Ling. That makes sense. Okay. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Um, we kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to let people know who you are, because there's so many things about the issues here and the issues there,
Mm.
and we kind of, as a community, we already know the issues.
Hmm.
We're just tired of the issues not being solved,
Yes.
and we want to. It's like, do we pick the devil we already know, or do we pick somebody with an angelic face that could be the same kind of devil, and we never get any solutions, actually
Yep.
solved?
Hmm.
So let's kind of dig into this. Somebody said you're an adopted son,
Hmm.
so you're not an organic New Mexican.
That's right.
Where you from, brother?
I'm from California.
Oh
I
yeah.
was raised in the Bay Area, but really grew up on I-25 between Bay and LA. So my mom, she was born in China. She migrated here as a kid and was raised in the Bay. But my dad was born in the projects in downtown LA. And so his whole family is down there. And I'm a product of his second marriage. And so I've got a half brother and half sister down in LA with their own family, uncles and aunts. And so, although I grew up really, I went to high school in the Bay Area in Oakland. I, uh, I claim all of California because we spent so much time up and down I-5 visiting family down in LA like every other weekend. And so, I see myself as from California.
Okay. So, what is your gang banging history? Are you a gangbanger? Are you a reformed gangbanger?
No comment.
You see that, folks? That's what I want to hear. So you're not adverse to what happens on the streets. You know how things go down.
Yeah, I would say I'm adverse to how things go on the streets because I think they can be better.
How so?
Well,
You from California? This is Albuquerque. How so, bro?
I think for a long time we've seen a disinvestment in our communities. For a long time we've seen folks in power take care of other people who have money or connections.
Hmm.
For a long time we have seen structures and governments and systems that don't serve us. I think that could be better. I think what we see on the streets, what we see in crime, what we see in homelessness is all driven by poverty, addiction, and mental illness. And those are not issues that a criminal justice system is equipped to handle. Never has been. Yet that is where we put all those folk who are driven to crime or to homelessness by poverty and
Hmm.
addiction and mental health.
Hmm.
And it turns out it compounds that problem.
Okay. And you said California. Isn't California the birthplace of the three strikes rule? Maybe
I don't
I'm
know if
wrong.
it exists there. I don't know if it's the birthplace, but I know they got three strikes there.
Yeah. How did that three strikes rule impact your environment living in Oakland? And
Yeah.
do you see any similarities between things that happened there? Because I'm assuming the '90s, you were there, '90s, '80s, and
Hmm.
all
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
and now you're here. Is there any similarities?
Yeah, I mean, so three strikes. For those who don't know, policy. If you get three felonies, it means it's your life. And so there was a policy that was always in the back of I think every young brown and black person's mind as they're growing up about what to look out for the future. It's a policy that relied on criminalization and harsh punishment to try to make places safer.
Hmm.
And it's a policy that we see has not made us safer.
Hmm.
I see a lot of similarities actually between Oakland and Albuquerque. They're both sort of these majority minority cities, who plagued by these problems of poverty, 500,000 populations, where community is actually really close and really tight, and people are actually know each other very well, and families are deep and connected to one another,
Hmm.
and yet have the struggle with these big problems. And I think I see a lot of parallels between these two cities.
Don't they have a bigger Asian population out
Oh yeah.
there?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, in the Bay Area, definitely. Um, San Francisco. I don't know what the percentage is in Oakland, but yeah, for sure.
So Asian and black, is that a thing out there in Oakland? Do they get along? Do they have dance battles?
I I don't know that I've witnessed an Asian versus black dance battle.
Do you dance?
No, it's been years. It's been
You've
years.
been working that
I've
long?
been working that long.
Golly, do you? So you don't
I
take
don't
breaks?
dance. I don't take breaks.
So what do you do on your off time? Like,
What off time? I sleep.
oh my God,
Between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m., I try to sleep. That's my off
really?
time. Yeah, that's my
So
off time.
so like not even you're not even into gardening. You don't listen to any music. I mean, like you don't
I
like do anything
used
with
to.
your
So I
hands.
used to garden. I love to build things, but the past 4 years, what I've been doing with my career hasn't allowed it. But yeah, I mean, back when I was younger, absolutely, I love gardening. We used to have gardens every year, tomatoes and peppers and everything else. We had garden boxes in the fronts. I love working with my hands, right? Like, actually, one of my favorite things is being outside and building things. I built, me and my father-in-law. And I'm lucky to have a father-in-law who's a really good builder. He ran a cabinet shop for 26 years here.
Mm.
He works at local construction company now. And we built, the sunroom on our porch in front of our house. I built the fence in front of my house. Like, I love to build things, but it's been a while.
It's been a while. So you plan on actually building, not just with your hands, but with your pen and your mind, the city to new heights.
I like to I like to make our government work for us better. Right.
You
That's
keep
why
saying us. What do you mean by us, man? I'm a black
for
man in
all of
America.
us, for all of us, everyone who lives here, and I think this is part of a fundamental problem with what's going on in America right now, is our politicians. They
Mm,
win because they tell us we're not like somebody else,
mm,
right? That person is the enemy, and you have to vote with us, or otherwise they're coming for you,
mm-hmm.
right? This has been the division that is riven our country for so long. And when I say us, I do mean us. I mean all of us, for everyone, right? I think there are, and when I say government, right, why I became a prosecutor is because I saw that was a system that most needed changing, right? I went to law school. I was the first and only attorney in my family. I didn't really know what it meant. I didn't really know what lawyers did. My only idea of what lawyers did was that they made money. And so I got there and I realized that that wasn't for me.
Really?
I'm not driven by it.
But dude, you were a U.S. attorney,
Yeah.
and word on the street is that you're an expert. I'm gonna quote. I'm gonna do the air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
That you're an expert on criminal reform.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for some of my homeboys
Mm-hmm.
who all they do is see other people who have done worse crimes than them
Mm-hmm.
get off?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not going to use any names because I got to protect my friends. But I have friends that have crashed their car into a light post or a light and walk, and they're now on 6 years of probation. But you have somebody, I please correct me if I'm wrong, um, Vanessa Martin.
Mm-hmm.
She's a child of a mother that kind of what decapitated her.
You're talking about Victoria Martin. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
She's out on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you even do that?
Mm-hmm.
How do you make people feel that you're really for them as a prosecutor,
Mm-hmm.
but the system allows people who have done worse crimes just get out?
Yeah.
I mean, what is your solution, Mr. Expert, to
Yeah.
criminal reform? How
Yeah.
what are you going to do for the homies?
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with the system. We'll describe it a little bit. Talk about
Okay.
how it was built and who it serves, right? So you see, when I became U.S. attorney, I was the youngest in the nation.
Really?
There's 94 or 93 across the nation. I was youngest at 36. I was one of four Latino U.S. attorneys out of these 93. And when you look at the federal criminal justice system, the stats of the people who are there, 80% are male. 50% are Latino, and the average age is 38.
Mhm.
And so when I was United States Attorney, I was the only average federal criminal defendant serving as the chief federal law enforcement officer for any district in the nation. And that makes a difference for the folks who are looking up to you, right? And who are looking at a system to see whether it serves them. And for me, we're going back to talking about the division in our culture, in our community, in our nation. I think the most powerful thing that we can do as people and as leaders is to stop seeing people as different from us, as strangers, but to see them as our neighbors, as our friends, as part of us, right? As part of the us. And so for me, the big project getting into criminal justice, right? Because someone with my background like more naturally fits and more often goes to public defense, right? Because that's where you get to stand your client, your righteous fight against a system that's always been oppressing them, right? But the thing about being a prosecutor is you actually get to make the call about whether a case gets prosecuted, right? For as a defense attorney, you file motions, you got to go to trial, you get taken up on appeal. That's how you beat a case. For a prosecutor, if you're doing your job right, your questions are first, did a crime occur, right? Can we prove it with the facts? Two, was it constitutional, the investigation, right? Fourth Amendment, but right to attorney, all the rest of it. But three is the most important one, which is, does it serve justice and does it make the community safer to prosecute this case? That's got nothing to do with the facts or the law. It's got everything to do with the way our system functions and whether it achieves its goals. And so for me, that's why I became a prosecutor, because I wanted to make a system that served that first and foremost. Because that book, the law book, it's thick. There are so many crimes, right? Our question as a government is how we use our limited resources. We can't prosecute every crime, nor should we. It's which ones do we prosecute? And so as U.S. attorney, as the chief federal law enforcement officer for this district, what I said is we're not going to prosecute everyone who, for example, committed a gun crime. And by gun crime, in federal language, what that means is felon in possession most of the time. What I said is instead what we're going to do is we're going to prosecute people when they pose a danger to the community. The distinction is this. The administration before me were charging every felon in possession. That's one strategy. What that meant was they were charging people with, for example, 10-year-old fraud convictions who are carrying a gun because they are scared on our streets, like everybody else.
So time out, time out, time out. You're telling me before you got in here, people that were just walking around because they're in fear of the neighborhood, the streets, were just getting arrested just because they had a gun walking. They weren't doing anything. They were just getting arrested just because they had a gun.
That's right. I mean, you got to think about what the felon in possession prohibits, right?
Wow.
And how it sounds politically when you say I'm cracking down on gun crimes because I charged 1,000 people with felon in possession.
But they were just walking.
But you got to think about, remember, it goes back to, is this justice and does this make the community safer? And so for us, what that meant was changing that analysis and saying, no, when we use this tool, and it is a tool, we're going to use it against people who are driving violence in our community, right? It's going to be, and we had a list of things, but it's like domestic violence or a recent history of shooting or, whatever it was, something tangible that said that this person needs the touch right now because they are violence right now. Not they're a person with a gun because they're scared and they have this nonviolent conviction in their past.
So that means even if you're a woman and you got beat up by your husband and you're on the run and you had a gun and you got hemmed up by the police, you can be charged for trying to protect yourself from somebody that was one of your abusers.
Yeah, if you have the felony conviction, it's a felon in possession. That's how black and white the law is. But that's the importance of having someone who is thinking about justice and thinking about community safety in the prosecutor's office. Right? Because look, that woman, if say she has a fraud conviction from 5 years ago, she's got a gun because she's scared of her boyfriend, but she gets picked up in a traffic stop. Her boyfriend's not there, right? Totally just like her on her own. We think there's 3 steps, right? 1, facts. Yeah, she's a felon. She has a firearm. 2, law. It's a traffic stop. We'll call it legitimate. Just put that to the side. That's a case that, as a prosecutor, I win all day. That's a case that you, as a criminal defense attorney, are going to lose. But that's a case that shouldn't be brought, right, for broader reasons of justice and public safety. And so the only person who can step in and stop that is the prosecutor.
Wow. So you actually used your prosecution to make sure defenders didn't give their client bad deals. And I'm
We
not trying to lead you
yeah,
to
no,
to any direction.
not even. I mean, we what the decisions we made were the types of enforcement we would do are the ones that pursue justice and make the community safer.
Okay,
I'll give you another example.
please, please.
We, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the past administration focused heavily on what we call interdiction drug cases.
I don't know what that is.
Interdiction drug cases is the 2 keys of meth in the back of the car. You're driving from LA to Oklahoma,
Okay.
right? That guy is getting paid $200, right, to drive a weight of drugs that he cannot afford
Hmm.
from one place to another. He's doing that because he is expendable to the cartel who's sending him, right? But we were leaning into these interdiction cases because, again, right, what are the first two things? Yeah, we can prove he had drugs and enough to distribute, right? The facts are against you. You will lose that case as a criminal defense attorney. I will win that case as a prosecutor. But the key is, should we bring that case? And where should we be using our resources? And so what I said is we're not doing reactive narcotics anymore. We're doing proactive organized crime investigations, which means we are targeting the command and control structures
Hmm.
of organized crime and cartel, right? That lets us get to the actual impacts, the actual ability for us to affect behavior of those business people, because cartel folk are business people who are making business decisions about where to sell their drugs, right? You only affect that when you touch the people who make decisions.
Okay. I like that you brought the word business because you know you come from an attorney background. Do you have any kind of business experience? Have you ever worked with any kind of business people?
Mhm.
How do you plan on helping businesses?
Okay.
Because,
This is quite
bro,
the pivot.
hey, look, I
Yeah.
live in the zone,
Yeah.
homie. What you when you talk about businesses, businesses are leaving
Yep.
the international district,
Mhm, mhm.
okay, which is looking like
Absolutely.
international bullcrap. They Griff's has left. Um, they had a dental office right next to the Freddy's near Eubank and Central, where the across the street from the Walgreens that closed. Um, the Sonic has just been scraped. You have the jewelry shop on Louisiana and Central across the street from Talon Market that is literally barricaded by people that are doing open drug use at the jewelry store front door, and then they cross the street to do drug use literally in the middle of the
Mhm,
street.
mhm,
And I'm being kind of long winded on this one because when you go down to Nob Hill,
mhm,
you also have businesses that are closing because of the effect
mhm,
of the international district. And sometimes you have somebody like, for instance, I don't know if that business is still there, like Pokey.
mhm.
It was I think it was a fish spot in Nob Hill.
Okay.
But say you go in there for 30 minutes because you got to wait for your food on your lunch break. You come back out, you got a $80 ticket on the street. I I mean, what's criminal?
Mhm, mhm,
And then you got criminals like, man, I might as well go sling dope because I'm not gonna get paid for another 3 weeks
mhm,
to pay that $80 ticket. And now I just came to get lunch. So, Mr. Attorney, soon to be manager of the city,
mhm.
how are you going to manage the navigation of the nuances that have to do with business?
Sure.
Talk to me, brother.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things going on there. I mean, so the first thing is, being the United States attorney doesn't really mean being an attorney, right? And so I was running a 200-person law office,
Oh,
right? As well as being responsible for every federal investigation and prosecution. That's FBI, DEA, Marshal Service, ATF, the whole like alphabet boys. And so running that was an administrative task. It wasn't a lawyering task, although I've done that, right? I spent my career as a trial attorney in courtrooms proving cases. But as U.S. attorney, it is budget, it is HR, it is managing one of the largest government institutions here in the state as the senior federal official in New Mexico. And so It is akin to running a business. We weren't selling things, right? But it is running budget. It is payroll. It's HR, right? It is navigating all those things that a business owner has to deal with, in addition to, of course, 200 direct employees. And so there's that component to it. But I think what you're talking about really, I mean, foundationally starts with having to deal with crime and homelessness here, because that is one of the things that drive out our businesses or drive our businesses out of business. And if you don't make the streets safe, right, and if you don't find places for people to be that is not on someone's doorstep or their storefront, then that's where they're going to be, and your business is going to go down. And so I think number one has to be dealing with crime and homelessness.
Okay.
Two, though, from the business owners I've spoken with, is we really should, as a government, have a customer service mentality, right? We make it too difficult for businesses to start up, to get their permits, to build their areas, to get what they need to start up.
Mhm.
And we also could be more generous with incentives,
Oh, go
right?
ahead.
So we give tax breaks to big developers,
Okay.
right? So the Sawmill District.
Isn't that a
Yeah.
land trust? But yeah, go ahead. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
there's a land trust component to it, but we just gave a 70% tax break for 20 years to a major developer to build $250 million development in the Sawmill.
Okay. How does that transfer to the uh, international district?
Well, how do you think? I mean, so that was a choice, right? Our mayor wrote that up for that developer.
Mm.
And if we can afford a 70% tax break for a big developer for 20 years, we can afford that for small businesses in the national district. That's where it should go.
Got you taking a shot at the mayor?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely. I want a city council to protest against this, right? It's called an IRB. And so it's a tax incentive. And what I went there and said is like these IRBs, and we're giving tax incentives, and it's not that I'm not against development. I want them to build things. That's great. But we're giving a 70% tax break for 20 years to somebody. There should be something in it for the community. When I went to city council, what I said is what the mayor stripped out of this bill,
mm-hmm,
out of this ordinance, to approve this,
mm-hmm,
was a fair wage for the people who built it,
mm-hmm.
any apprenticeships for kids trying to learn trades, and the requirement for affordable housing. And so every community protection that was supposed to be in there when we're giving a community benefit,
Mm-hmm.
which is a tax break,
Mm-hmm.
was stripped out. Thankfully, the council went back in and put prevailing wage in, which is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we're willing to give a 70% tax break for 20 years to a developer for $250 million developments, we can afford to give a 70% tax break to small business owners just for the first couple of years to get off their feet.
Mm-hmm.
We can afford to make it easier for them
Mm-hmm.
to start up their businesses.
And my question to that is, you're talking first crime, then homelessness, and then incentives, right? But there is a thing where this is Albuquerque,
Mhm.
and if you talk to somebody who's like from here, and you say, "Hey, I live in the war zone," their reply is going to be, "Which one?" It's the truth.
That's funny.
That's
That's
going to be
funny.
the reply. And you and and I'm thinking about these businesses. How are we going to incentivize the
Mhm.
businesses not to give up?
Yeah.
What is your plan economically there?
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's making the streets safe. That is number one. But I think it's a combination, right? It's incentives, as I was saying.
Mhm.
It's cutting and fast tracking small business permits,
Mhm.
right? So they don't have to wait 9 months to open up or to get the approval for a patio or whatever it is they're trying to build.
Mhm.
I think it's also having some funds to help them, in the interim while we're dealing with crime and homelessness, to help them replace windows, replace doors, fix things that are broken because of these other issues that are still going on, right? To keep
Time
them on
out.
their
Time out.
feet.
Let me make sure I understand this.
Mhm.
You're saying part of the incentives while you're dealing with crime and homelessness, and I didn't mean to stop you, but I
Yeah.
had to because you got me excited. You're saying while dealing with that, because we're talking about 2 hour calls, um, that you would help assist with the broken windows
Mhm.
and pull
Mhm.
the wires. So is the mayor not doing that now?
He's talked about it, but I haven't heard a lot of businesses who have received it.
So he just talking.
I think that's common for this administration is to announce an idea and say he's going to do it and then not get the results from it. And it's shocking to me because I know that he can move things quickly if he needs to, like he did for this developer, which pushed through in a couple of weeks. I don't know, right? I'm not in the administration, but I just see what's on the streets. I see how people are experiencing, and I hear from business owners who say, like, we reached out for the help and it never came.
How are we to know, as the people who
Mhm.
may or may not vote for you, that you're not going to turn around and do the same thing
Yeah,
and give us fluff piecework, go cut ribbons, and then all of a sudden we have nothing?
you don't.
Like,
You don't. No, a piece of this is faith, right? A piece of this is getting to know a person and putting faith in their better nature, right? And a piece of it, though, is looking at my history and looking at the mayors, right? The mayor's been a politician for the past 15 years, right? You can look at his record and make a decision about what it is he is doing with his life, right? Moves back to the international district, becomes a senator, serves, I think, 2 terms there.
and what year was that?
Ooh,
To,
I don't
to
remember
that was that to like
exactly. I
2008 or
don't remember.
something?
We got to look it up. Somewhere around there, 7 or 8, I think, but I'm not sure exactly. 2 terms there, runs for state office, immediately leaves the international district for the country club where he currently lives,
So,
and then is the state auditor for all of New Mexico, where he
wow.
doesn't complete his term. He does 3 years
Mm,
before running for mayor here in Albuquerque for 2 terms,
mm.
and now running for a third term. And you see what the motivations are, right? Like, I've spent the past 15 years here in public service and public safety. I went to Columbia Law School. It's a fancy one. I could have gone and worked for a corporate law firm, but like I told you, the money's never motivated me. I chose to come here and be a crimes against children prosecutor for like $35,000 a year.
Mhm.
And my parents did not get it because they're like, you're a lawyer. You should be making money. I was like, but this is what I believe in.
Mm.
And so I've spent my career here in public service doing these jobs because I felt it was the way I could best help this community. And yeah, it comes down to trust. At the end of the day, absolutely. Politicians forever have let us down. But I've only been a politician for 6 months.
You mean Republican and Democrat
Yes,
politicians? You mean the
absolutely.
whole gamut?
The whole gamut. I'm not playing party politics here. I think they're all to blame. I think they've all failed us. Right? I'm a member of the Democratic Party because I still believe it's the largest coalition of people who still care about other people.
Hmm.
Right? But that doesn't mean I think that they're doing a good job of it. And part of that has to do with this difference, right? We're the party of the right ideas, right? We believe the experts, we read the studies, we say the things that make sense, and that's why we've built this coalition of people.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean anything if we can't actually implement it. And that's what we're seeing here in Albuquerque. A person who ran with the right ideas because he's read the right books and seen the right studies, and that's great. I have too. But we've had a failure of implementation, right? That's why we saw an all-time high of murders in 2022. That's why homelessness has doubled in the past 3 years, right? That's why rents have increased by 60%. That's why 1 in 10 renters can afford to buy a house because we haven't been implementing the ideas, right? We have been doing the ribbon cuttings and the big announcements, but we've forgotten to focus on planning and zoning, which means that our housing stock is down tens of thousands of units, which means housing prices have gone up, all because we didn't pay attention to the fundamentals of getting permits turned around quickly or using incentives strategically, right? The boring nuts and bolts of governing are the things that we failed at for the past 3 years, that this city has failed at for the past 8 years. And it's that implementation gap, right? If the city can't get it together to implement the good ideas, then what are they worth? And worse off, here's my worry about this actually. When you make good ideas look bad, right? When you say we need an alternative police response, and we do, but you fund them at $18 million and they can't cover, and they're not doing the outreach job they're supposed to because they're just taxing unhoused people around the city,
Hmm.
then you're taking a good idea, you're making it look bad. And what you're doing that is you offer the opportunity for everyone else in this mayoral field to say the bad ideas are necessary.
Mm.
Now we need to arrest everybody, is what
Mm.
they're saying,
Mm.
because we tried being nice and it didn't work. When the reality is we haven't tried taking care of people. We failed on the implementation, but we were still pushing the idea as if it's what's happening. right? Tim Keller loves to say, now, we built a system that houses 1,000 people a night. But the reality is 700 of those 1,000 people are in the West Side shelter. The West Side shelter is a jail served by 3 caseworkers and no medics. That's an hour out of town, where 20% of the people there have been there for 5 years.
I almost spit my water out. Are you serious, dude?
Yeah. It's because we are not actually providing the services, right? He is saying the words, yes, that we need to provide comprehensive mental health care and medical treatment and support and casework to get people off of the streets. Those are the right words. But what is he delivering? A jail on the West Side for 700 people.
You know, I've talked to you about. I talk to kind of randos on the street, and one of the questions, and excuse my phraseology for this, but the words, and I quote, "Yeah, he's good. He's younger. He's definitely different, but we don't know if he get that dog in him to actually get it done. We don't know if he's gonna call out the people who are holding up the process. How can you tell these people that you got the dog in you and they will benefit? How can a non-voter feel and see direct change? Do you have that dog in you?
Let me tell you about what I did as U.S. attorney. So I was U.S. attorney for 33 months. And when I came in, I knew that it was term limit. I knew that at some point I'd be fired, right? And so I sent out a memo to my team first day saying, we got 32 months to achieve these things. Who knows? Maybe we'll have more, but we're going to plan for 32. And so during my time as United States attorney, I led that office to the single largest budgetary shortfall in the department's history. I had to cut our operating budget by 50% to stay in the red, in the black. We didn't fire a single federal employee. We moved the whole office from a paper file system to electric file system because it's better. We took down the largest fentanyl seizure in FBI's history. We took down 30 years of corruption in Albuquerque's police department. We built the first federal reentry court for people coming back from federal lockup. We built the first missing and murdered Indigenous persons database statewide so no one would fall through the cracks. And we launched the first missing and murdered Indigenous persons program nationwide so that we assigned prosecutors to work the cases and work with the families, even cold cases. And so this is 33 months of work. Big, impossible, intractable problems that we can get done when we have a singular mindset of advancing the goal, in that case, public safety, right? And I told you the story about the developer in the sawmill, right, who is he's one of the wealthiest people in the state, who was not happy with me when I went and spoke out at council, who dropped $10,000 into Tim Keller's PAC immediately after. I'm not scared to stand up to people, and I'm not scared of their money, right? It's about doing the right thing for the people. Because at the end of the day, I actually don't care about my political future either. I was the youngest U.S. attorney in the nation. I can go make millions of dollars if I really wanted to. All kinds of people called me the day after I got fired. I don't need this job. In fact, I have a lot of jobs with a lot less stress that pay more, right? That I could be doing instead. The only reason I'm doing this is for the community. And if you wonder whether I got fight in me, I'm the only person in this race. I'm one of very few people actually in the state, probably in the nation, who has extradited the leader of the assassins for a major cartel.
So
I have taken down child killers, child molesters, cartel bosses, police officers. Not scared of anybody.
So you do got that dog in you, huh? I can see it
Yes,
in your
sir.
eye. You got that dog in
Yes,
you,
sir.
huh? Oh, Alex Uballez is not afraid to fight, huh? Okay, I guess that's a hot take. Somebody needs to make sure we get that one. So I guess that might be because you listen to a lot of hip hop music.
Nice. I love your segues. It was
I'm just wondering, man. Like, I'm like, what? that fight. I mean, like, what kind of music do you listen to
Yeah.
before you're about to go take the fight?
Mm-hmm.
Who, like, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
who is your favorite hip hop top five? Give me your
Mm.
top five. I'm gonna write this down because if I don't write this down, because
You know,
you will be judged. Your
I
top
think that's
five.
fair. I think that's fair. And I don't love hip hop top five lists because I think at the end of the day, you know, there are people that everyone includes in them because you have to, and then there are people, and then the rest is like personal preference. And so, and I'll tell you another thing about my musical tastes is they evolve.
Okay.
I get tired of music really quickly, and
Okay.
so I move through music. But I was thinking about this the other day, and so I wanted to sort of I can do it in sort of a chronology of folks who I've loved through my life and like
Okay.
different pieces of my life.
Okay.
Starting out, and this my dad introduced me to hip hop.
Your daddy?
My dad, yeah.
How old is your dad?
How old is he now? God, I don't know. He was born in '44.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, look, erase that. Erase that. That he don't know how old his daddy is.
He is 80.
He's older than hip hop.
Oh yeah. So my dad was a musician.
Is that
He was
right?
not hip hop. He was part of the first Chicano band to ever record in East LA, back when he was 19, way back in the day. And so he's been in music his whole life. And so he's not a he's I don't think he's ever produced a hip hop artist, but he's always paid attention to all different kinds of music, you know. And he was the one who introduced me to Tupac at a young age, of like, you got to listen to this guy. He is a poet. He's a poet, and so that was foundational for me as a kid.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Keep
it was
going.
foundational. Like
Okay.
that was like, and then as a youngin, as a teenager in Oakland, like, I mean, as a young adult, you might, and this will date me, you might remember the hyphy movement out there.
Do you get hyphy?
I have. I have. I'm coming on 40. I'm too old to be doing any of that craziness. But yes, I'm still like, I would have to, coming from the Bay too, I'd have to shout out like E40 and Too Short and like all the foundational Keek the Sneak. But I think if there was one, who is foundational in the Bay, it's Mac Dre.
Wow.
Yeah.
You do know your hip hop. Okay. Okay. What else you got, man?
And
I
then
got one,
you
two,
guys are
three
two,
left.
three. Okay, and so let's work through. So that's going up there, moving to LA. College years. I actually listened to a lot of Southern stuff during college. I went to school in LA, but I don't know why for me. Well, I guess there's two. Let me think.
You said South. Now remember, the last time somebody left Ti out, he came for them. I don't want Ti coming for you.
Ti's on the list. Like you got to do. You got to talk about Wayne. You got to talk about Ti. You got to talk about Gucci. I'm a big Gucci fan. But I think the defining and maybe there's two, and they're very different. But the defining rapper for me in that era of my life, so this the college, like early 20s era, was Lil Boosie. Lil Boosie.
U.S. attorney, former U.S. attorney, future mayor of Albuquerque, like Lil Boosie.
Said I never
Oh,
make it to the top, cause
dude.
I come from the bottom. Right?
Oh,
His soul. I mean, he's got the soul, right? Right. He reminded me of Pac in a lot of ways, right? So that.
how that song go again? I gotta get that
You
again.
never heard that?
No, how's it
Oh
go?
my God. Okay.
What's
You
that
gotta
track?
listen. Top to the bottom, or bottom to the top, I don't remember.
But
Yeah.
what was that chorus?
They said I'd never make it to the top, cause I come from the bottom. From a hood where they don't make it, baby. Oh man, I mean, like he just sings to you.
Man,
Little
you from the
Boosie.
bottom, brother?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, 4 and
Boosie.
5.
Little Boosie. Let's see. We moved to New York. A New York era, actually, I mean, like this is a funny time to jump into Jay-Z, but Jay-Z is probably there's something about living in New York, living in a place, I would say, where you feel there are people in a different way. Because, like, of course, I listened to Jay Z and Nas and the rest of them, like, as young, right?
Mm-hmm.
Biggie, etc. But, like, living in New York, and I think Blueprint 3 came out when I lived in New York. But Jay was big. Jay was big. And everyone, and like, you know who else was though? Nicki Minaj. Jay and
Oh,
Nicki. Jay
I'm gonna let you.
Slash.
I'm gonna let you share
Jay
number four.
Slash.
I'm
Jay
gonna let you.
Slash.
I'm gonna get you a slash.
Yeah. But I
Okay.
think I started listening to Nicki in college. I remember hearing her first song on a mixtape in college and being like, she is going to be big. She
Mm.
is going to be big.
You were
Um,
listening to mixtapes.
it was, okay, so mixtape, it was CD. It was a CD. But yeah, mixtape.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number
I had
five.
a 6 disc changer in the back of my car in college. Number 5. So since then, who have I've listened to? You know, I don't know what this says about the profession I was in, but I listened to a lot of like drill music, like Chicago drill, New York drill.
You do,
Yeah.
dude. You're really eclectic, dog. Oh
Yes.
wow.
Eclectic is, yeah, that's accurate. Eclectic is accurate.
So are we talking like G Herbo, or are we talking like Chance the Rapper? If we go a little north, are we talking like Big Sean? Who are we speaking of?
No, no, I'm talking like Chief Keef, King Von, like all the street drama and like the storytelling, right, of these beefs in Chicago and in New York. Um, these tragic lives, right? Bobby Shmurda, talking
I
about New
do
York.
like with some Bobby Schmurder.
Talking about some New
About
York.
a week ago, yeah, I like with some Bobby Schmurder.
And so God, I don't know who the defining artist is for that. I've been listening to a lot of King Von lately. I don't know if he's the defining artist. He was killed back in 2020. But that's who I've been listening to a lot of recently, just for the storytelling, right? The rawness.
Look, man, I got Tupac, I got Jay Z, I got King Von, Mac Dre, Lil Boosie. Um, it seems like, and it's probably a stretch. Does listening to this kind of music keep you like normal? Like, does it keep you rooted? Is it just remind you of like who you are, and
Yeah, I
you
think
just
so.
happen to be an attorney?
I think so. I think that might be right. I don't know. It's just what I like. It's the storytelling. It's the poetry. It's the realness of it and the rawness of it. It's the youth in it, right?
Mm.
And the energy and the creativity. It's all of it, right? Yeah, it's all of it.
I saw you go back. So, is something triggering you about the youth? Is there something you want to say about the youth? Because it seemed like you said youth a couple times.
Yeah,
What is there for the youth?
yeah,
Um, and you went from Tupac to King Von. That's a large generational
yeah.
gap.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Large
Yes,
generational gap.
yes, yes.
So
I think
you,
I don't
your
know.
youth.
King Von might have been born after Tupac died. Like I don't know, but he was young when he died.
So you understand the youth.
Yeah, I see what they're going through. I wouldn't say that I feel I look young, but I'm older than I look. I'm 39, but I feel a whole lot older than I look as well. And
Mm,
so, I don't know. I don't know because I feel like the streets have changed a lot. I've seen a lot too, as like criminal investigator. You get to witness a lot of what's happening on the streets. I think the reason why King Von stands out to me is just his um, the raw talent and the poetry and storytelling combined with just being killed at like 24 or so, right?
mm,
And just seeing that as what so many of our youth feel and see for their futures,
mm.
right? The chance maybe, I will be a bright light for a couple years and then I'll be gone, right?
Do you think that's kind of how the youth feels in Albuquerque?
They do.
A little bit or a lot of them?
I mean, there's a lot of different experiences here, but I think more kids feel like that than should.
Well, I'll give you some kind of a personal reference.
Mm,
So I told some of my family members, do not go work at this particular shop on
mhm,
Central.
mhm,
And it wasn't because of Central, but my fear was that something would happen and the synapses in the mind won't click fast enough for
mhm,
response of what they should do to avoid
mhm,
that might be
mhm,
inevitable danger that might happen.
mhm,
And then maybe 2 months after they started working on Central, the sister store on Course had an 18-year-old child get shot at
mm,
O'Reilly's.
mm,
So if that happens on Course
mhm,
and that's not considered a quote unquote war zone,
mhm,
what does that mean for people that live
mhm,
in certain areas and they need a
mhm,
job?
mhm,
How is the youth supposed to get a job?
mhm.
I mean, listening to your music taste, and you kept going back to the youth. Do you have any idea of what we can do to, if we're not going to give them a job, to keep them out of the streets? Do you have
Mhm,
any
mhm,
idea we can do?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it for me, it goes back to school, um, because I see that we have created a school system in this country that only serves some of this country.
Mm,
We have created because look, everyone's good at something. Everyone's passionate about something. Everyone has something that is their skill and they would love to do and could make money doing. But school doesn't give us that. School gives us facts, right? Like memorize these facts. It gives us certain skills, reading, writing, etc. But it doesn't give us the skills that we need to survive in society. If I was running for school board and I'm not running for school board, I would scrap the whole curriculum. I would replace it with critical thinking, dispute resolution, and budgeting. If you graduate from high school with these three skills, then you're going to be fine. If you don't
wow.
know who Napoleon is, that's okay. That's okay. And I think part of it too is making sure, from the mayor's side, because the mayor doesn't run APS, but from the mayor's side, what we should be doing is investing heavily in those alternative pathways to success for kids, saying that college doesn't have to be the way,
Hmm.
right? If you like learning, if you like schooling, if you like something that will require a college degree, by all means do it. But if you don't, if you like building things, if you like working on cars, right? If you like, you know, whatever that passion is, let's find it and let's support it and let's lean into that so that our kids in middle school and high school see that they have a future, right? I think that's number one. I think a lot of our kids don't see they have a future.
What if I like playing video games?
And we'll find a future for you.
And what does that future look like?
So I've heard a lot about the e-gaming industry and about the things that about the professional sports support that is building out around it. And I think fundamentally our kids need something to do that is safe, and then something to do that will build a skill and get them money. And so if that is the thing that they love, and there is a growing industry around it,
Hmm.
we should support it.
So you're saying if it is possible that esports is a viable avenue for
Yeah.
children, it keeps them safe, it keeps them entertained, you will entertain the idea of funding esports.
Yeah, I think we should fund, yes, I think we should fund anything that keeps our kids safe, that they're passionate about, and that is a viable career pathway forward.
So esports is kind of a new idea. And I say new because a lot of the same things that are always happening in Albuquerque are the same old
Mhm,
faces.
mhm,
Nothing against, I'm not ageist. But there's no turning of the tide
mhm,
or passing of the torch.
mhm,
There's no welcoming of
mhm.
innovation from new people.
Yeah.
How are you going to bring that to fruition?
Yeah, I think we need to invest in all good ideas, right? And when people are passionate about something and they want to invest in them, we should support it and let them move forward. Doesn't matter really like, what it is or who's been in the space before or who is, supposedly holding the keys to something, right? We need to be innovative. We need to be quick and nimble and move quickly. so that we can build the things that our kids need and adapt to this world that is changing so very quickly around us. So we can catch up because we are falling way behind because we're moving way too slow and not investing in the things that are the future.
What if you don't like them? You like their idea, but you don't like them.
The person?
Yeah.
Oh,
Would you work with them
yeah.
to get the idea across?
So I don't see these roles, the mayor, U.S. attorney, like these aren't roles that belong to us, me as a person, right? Like this is a, when I was U.S. attorney, I viewed myself as a temporary custodian of a role that belongs to the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same with the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is my feelings about a person, my feelings about anything don't really matter because it's not my feelings that are being elected. It's my judgment, right? And my judgment says I work with anybody who's going to move us forward and do positive things for our community, no matter if you like me or not, no matter if you've said bad things about me in the past, no matter if you fought against an idea that I liked. Because if we have an agreement on something, we both say, hey, this is a good thing, then I'll be there as a partner.
Even if you don't like them and they have said terrible things about you, you will take them hand in hand and work with them for the betterment of the city.
Ain't about my feelings. Never has been.
And I'm only asking because I mean, you're the one who called out the mayor on TV about him firing somebody for the. I mean, should be okay for somebody to look and see where the money's being invested as a tax-paying citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what's going to keep you from firing somebody
Mm-hmm.
for actually doing what is equitable? What
Yeah.
are you going to be mad at somebody and all of a sudden you got your feelings in the mix because you feel that you're going to punish somebody for being fair?
No, no, no. Because our systems are supposed to be accountable and transparent to us, right? I welcome the investigations, right? Like, I believe a thing that we need is a strong and independent inspector general here, right? The inspector general, remember that Tim Keller put on admin leave because she was releasing reports about fraud, waste, and abuse in his administration. If you got nothing to hide, you shouldn't be scared of the audit, right? That's not your money. It's taxpayer money. You should be accountable to the people. What is it that he doesn't want you to see in the West Side shelter? Well, we know now because I said it at the debate. And maybe he didn't know the answer, right? Maybe he just had no idea that there are only 3 caseworkers out there.
Mm.
But as a mayor, wouldn't you want to know? If this is your signature program, if you're every debate, every forum saying I take 1,000 people off the streets every night, you ought to know what services they're getting. And the people deserve to know that too.
Look, I don't want to take digs at the mayor because I think the mayor is cool and all that. But but my question, if you're taking 1,000 people on the street off the street every night, how come I still see 1,000 people on the street?
Yeah, it's because we haven't built the back ends to this solution. It's because we haven't engaged in the thing he is saying he is doing, right? So if you are actually getting 1,000 people into transitional housing every night,
Mm-hmm.
right, then they are actually moving off of the street into houses with wraparound services, medical support that will help them on the long term get off of the streets. But if what you're actually doing is storing people in a jail a mile out of the city, then you're not creating room for new people to come in, right, when they need the services. As people graduate and move out into the community, people are stuck there. They're dead ending there, right? And so the problem is we are not engaging with the real solution.
Yeah, I hear you, but on these debates, um, his comeback and or to be fair, rebuttal to all of you,
Mhm.
is great ideas. I'm already doing it.
Yeah, but is he?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm just here to ask the questions, brother. Because look, we have a lot of neighborhoods facing challenges.
Mhm.
Okay, and they're all wondering the same thing. And if your rebuttal is we're doing that, we just need to stay the course. Is that what we should be doing?
I mean, we'll stick on housing and homelessness, right?
Okay.
His rebuttal is my proposal, right, is transitional housing. His rebuttal is, yeah, we're already providing people with medical support.
Mm-hmm.
The facts are we've spent over $100 million in the Gibson Center and it serves 150 people. We could have built them all houses for that amount of money. Right? The fact is, it's not 1,000 people getting services and moving through a gateway system that's getting them on their feet. We know that's impossible because 700 people are served by 3 caseworkers. So we know the things that he is saying he is doing in this instance are untrue. What reason do you have to believe him on the others? Right? We see it. We walk outside. We see homicides peaking 2022, right? We see homelessness doubling past 3 years. We see our rents. We see a cost of living. We feel the reality of what's happening here.
Wow. Um, dang, dude. Well, if we're gonna keep on reality, reality is you're Mexican and Asian, and where you're from, Mexican, Asians, and Black people get along. Hell, um, hip hop, we're talking Wu Tang Clan. That's like the epicenter of the fusion of us together.
Someone's gonna come for me for put Wu Tang on that list. That's one of
Oh,
those, It's like that's why I hate top 10 lists. You're like, oh, but Nas is not on there, Wu Tang is not on there. They're like, man,
this dude ain't
there's,
cool.
there's
I thought he was
there's
cool.
there's too much talent out there. It just is for a top 5 list. But anyways, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so who's segueing here? You or me?
I just know. I just thought it was funny. But yes, go ahead.
Well, like the question is, when we're talking about the reality, there's a lot of Asian groups and subgroups that are being ignored. And I'm not talking, you have your Chinese and your Japanese,
Mhm,
but there's way more out here in Albuquerque, and they're never put up front.
mhm,
How can we bridge a better gap? Because
mhm,
you would be the representative on both sides
mhm,
for the Mexican community, for the Asian community.
mhm,
Do you see a possibility to fuse some love between
mhm,
the Black, Asian, and Mexican community? Could you make that happen?
mhm. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do, right? The way I look at this world is that we are all neighbors and that we need to take care of our neighbors. Right. That's the only way we get through this. And so I think you're right. I think talking about the Asian community is interesting, right? Because um, folks, when they think Asian, generally think Chinese, maybe Japanese, right? Sort of East Asian, but it's South Asians, Indians, it's Afghanis, right? Like this population is so diverse on its own here, in Albuquerque, across the world. It almost doesn't make sense to describe them as one ethnic group,
Mm.
right? But here they are. Um, Here we are, as people trying to make our way in the city. And so I think the only way we do that is by making sure we're taking care of everyone.
Will you help the Asian community move back into the international district?
Mm,
And I ask that because I'm aware that there is Asian stores,
mhm,
but the people who work at these Asian stores or own these stores or businesses no longer live there because
mm,
their kids are like, I'm getting out of here. Thanks, mom. Thanks, dad, for helping build the community. But the government won't help you stay safe, and I don't want to die in the store next to
mhm,
you.
mhm.
What do you say to them?
I think that the international district is a microcosm for what's happening in all of Albuquerque, right? And
Really?
our failure to take care of the problems, right, and serving a specific part of our city has grown, right, into problems that are felt now citywide. Because this is a thing I hear from everybody now, no
Mm,
matter where you live in the city, which is my kids are moving away to find safety and opportunity.
mm,
Is I'm moving to whatever city because that's where my kids moved, right? It's people fleeing this city as a whole because what may have started and may have been historically a problem, plaguing the international district is now affecting everyone, right? Everyone is feeling the consequences of us not dealing with these core problems going back to where we started of poverty, addiction, and mental health. And if we don't deal with these, right, I know that we're a city of neighborhoods, but we're really one small city,
mhm.
and the problems of the international district affect everyone who works and lives on Central.
So this is a quality of life thing for the city.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think a lot of people, when they say public safety is their number one concern, are really talking about quality of life crime.
Mhm.
And it is, I mean, it makes sense. We're talking about the way it feels to be in our city.
Mm.
It doesn't feel safe in our city, or it doesn't feel like a city we're proud of. When we walk down Central, we walk downtown, we saw the vacant storefronts, or I see people living, in the streets. It doesn't feel like a city we're proud of.
Oh no! I mean, I got friends that I knew when I first moved here who have moved and said, "Dude, I'm sorry we convinced you that Albuquerque is a place to stay at. Albuquerque is a shithole. You should run."
Yeah. And it's not. The city has so much potential, it has such deep culture and such strong connections to this land, you know, and to the things that make us definingly Albuquerque. But like we said before, crime, homelessness, they're baseline, they're foundational. And if we can't handle these things, right? Nothing else we build a rail trail, right? We build like it doesn't matter what nice public things we build.
Mm.
We will lose our public spaces, right, to these quality of life crimes if we don't deal with those core underlying issues of poverty, addiction, and mental health.
Is that what's happening around the state fairgrounds?
Yeah. And so my worry about the state fair, we want to talk about moving the state fair. My worry is that it's just yet another example of people moving something nice away from a problem that they haven't fixed.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You're saying that it's possible we're just going to be shifting one problem to another area and have another problem, I'm going to transition for problems because somebody asked me to ask you, what are you going to do about the stupid spending? I said,
Okay.
what do you mean stupid spending?
Okay.
They said the art bus.
Mm.
Some people say that it didn't help Albuquerque as it was, it was a good idea. What was the quote
Mm-hmm.
you said? Good ideas turning bad,
When you make good ideas look bad.
making
Yeah.
good ideas look bad.
Yeah.
So the art bus looked good, right?
Yeah.
But I think people wanted other things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think other things could have happened that you would have, or and you plan on
Mm-hmm.
doing
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to transportation?
I mean, I believe in transportation. I believe in rapid transit.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of complaints about art. Um, I think I'll start again with the fact that, when we don't deal with our core problems of homelessness and crime, we will lose our public spaces, including our public transit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of folk who just stay on art because it's air conditioning in the
Mm-hmm.
summer or it's heat in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And our failure to provide places for people to live,
Mm-hmm.
right, leads to that. And so that leads to a feeling of not being safe on the art buses, um, which is a piece.
Mm-hmm.
I think also the construction of the art buses put a lot of businesses under on Central and Nob Hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that a lot. And I've heard a lot of complaints about being able to turn around on Central and Nob Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know all the solutions. I don't. But I know that what we need is a robust and frequent transit system that connects the whole city. What that looks like, maybe, I mean, I think having art run local on East Central and maybe on the west side as well, running it north south up cores, running it maybe a north south corridor on the east side on the east side as well.
Mm-hmm.
But really, this comes down to the reliability and the frequency of our bus system comes down to paying our bus drivers enough, right?
Bus drivers aren't getting paid enough.
So they just received a raise to put them on equal footing with our solid waste drivers,
What?
which you might understand, is not a competitive advantage for the transit system.
Okay.
Because if you can choose to drive around by yourself all day or choose to drive around and have to deal with a ton of passengers,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that the story I've heard from a lot of bus drivers is that they'll either move to solid waste or they'll move to Amazon, right?
Time
Because
out. Time out. The bus drivers would rather go deal with waste
hmm
than to, because the money's not worth it to drive the bus.
hmm
So we are pretty much on the verge of losing transportation assistance
Oh, we already
unless
have. We're in a crisis. So transportation services have fallen by 37% over the past 5 years.
what?
Like this is our mismanagement of our transit system. And this is devastating, right? It's like everything else. Like we were talking about planning and zoning, right? If you don't build housing, then you're going to be way behind, and then we have all these people in the streets. If you don't build a transit system by paying your bus drivers enough so it's frequent and reliable, what happens with that 37% of people? They're not going to hop on tomorrow when it is frequent and reliable. Those people need a transit today. Those people went and bought a car that they probably couldn't afford, that they're going to have for 10 years. So we've lost those riders, right? This is not just, well, let's just pay them more now. The lack of foresight by this administration has put us in a position where our transit system is dying. And it won't be easy to turn it around. But it does start with paying our bus drivers more.
I mean, I hear good ideas and I hear bad implementation. But my question to you, sir, if you see it's a good idea and you start to implement it and it starts to go sour, what do you suggest we should do? Are you tired? Or are you going to double down on these bad ideas?
We change course as quickly as a thing doesn't work. Like that's what we should demand of all of our leaders. We should never double down on a thing because of ego or because of it's our signature project. I think this is what happened at the Gateway Center down on Gibson, right?
Go ahead. You can speak on that, but
Yeah. So the community and the experts said you need multiple ones of these around the city. And they also recommended, of course, transitional housing on the back end. We talked about that, of how you get out of the shelter system. Instead, we wanted to buy this big building. Don't know why. But the administration wanted one big building that was a one-stop shop. Fine. That wasn't recommended, but go ahead. We spent $15 million on this building that's probably worth about $0. It was full of lead, asbestos, and silica. We knew this because it was built in the 1950s. Everything then was. Instead of testing, abating, making it safe, we put a bunch of workers in there to work without protective gear and pull asbestos off the walls and floors. And so, because we were rushing this project, now we're facing a lawsuit that I'm sure will be class action, where a bunch of people who we exposed to asbestos will sue us and they will win. So we're going to pay a ton of money in this lawsuit because we were rushing a project. Now that we are there, and I don't have full answers here. I've sent a bunch of IPRAs because I'm trying to find out what's going on in there. Obviously, I'm not welcome in the shelter system anymore.
Oh no, you might get arrested next time.
And so I can't go check it out. But my question is, I wonder how much of that facility is actually usable. I wonder if in the 4 days they did stop work there, they were able to clear all of the asbestos out of it. But I don't know. But this is an example of us doubling down on a project, the city doubling down on a project that is clearly a money pit. And now I said, we're over $100 million in, right, to this thing that serves 150 people a night.
Oh, which one, sir, has 100 million into it? The West Side or the Gateway?
The Gateway on Gibson.
They put 100 million into the Gateway East off of Gibson
and counting.
100 million
and counting.
Where's the money at?
That's the question, right? I mean,
Dude, let me time out, bro. I saw a dude on Louisiana and Lomas outside the Burger King pop out of a stolen recycling bin. Okay, looking like that's a Sesame Street Cruise. Oscar the Grouch. That dude popped out of the recycling bin. Okay, so you're talking about 100 million?
Yeah.
Hey, Keller, I need about 5, bro. I need to give my brother about 5. Okay.
What's 5? What's 5?
What's 5? Give my brother about 5. Golly, 100 mil.
Yep, they went through it a couple weeks ago in front of council, where they laid out all the costs. It's north of 100 mil now.
If you could take that 100 million, that's a big number. Let's subtract it. If you can go half and take that 50 million and put it into kids, what would you do with it?
Put it into kids.
Just kids. So, kids. When I say kids, I mean the parents as well, because
Yeah,
kids
I was gonna
obviously
say
come
this.
from somebody.
I was gonna say this, which is the thing that I learned being a crimes against children prosecutor.
Hmm.
The physical abuse cases that you saw were always families in crisis.
Really?
They're rarely bad people. They're almost always parents who are overwhelmed, right? So it'd be mom working two jobs. It'd be boyfriend at home with the kids because they couldn't afford childcare. It's them barely making rents, not having health care, barely making food. And sometimes, of course, like dealing with addiction and mental health and trauma issues of their own and just losing it because kids are hard. And they're even harder when you don't know whether you're going to afford to live in the place you're living. And so I think the first step for our kids is taking care of our families. The first step to taking care of families is making sure we have housing that's affordable and accessible, that we have jobs and opportunities that pay fair wages, that we are building systems of healthcare to support people, that we make sure all our kids have food, right? These are the problems that start outside of the classroom, but that we blame our teachers for when our kids are failing. But it's not the teacher's fault that a kid comes in hungry. That's ours. And so I think taking care of our kids means taking care of those families in crisis first. That means universal childcare,
Hmm.
right? That means healthcare.
Hmm.
That means guaranteed housing, affordable housing, if subsidies, rental assistance, whatever we can do to keep a family out of crisis. Because what happens when that crisis escalates, right? Domestic violence, right, in a home, animal cruelty, child abuse. These are all adverse childhood experiences. And we know the impact of ACEs on kids down the line, right? It's everything from actual practical health impacts on them to the likelihood that they'll end up in the criminal justice system. And what happens too when you get to, domestic violence and, assaults, abuse, murder, then parents are taken out of the house and the kid ends up in the foster system. In the foster care system, nearly all of those kids end up on the streets.
Really?
Back to our original problem of homelessness, right? And so if we were actually going to address these things, we need to take care of our families.
How much more money, if elected, are you gonna dump into the Eastgate?
Is it what?
You said there's 100 million.
Oh, and so the
Yeah,
oh yeah,
if
the
you're
percent.
elected, how much more money are you gonna dump into there?
You know, I'm worried about our finances. My sources in the administration tell me we're somewhere around $100 million overspent, which means we are going into a big deficit next year. I don't know what money we got, right? And I do promise, right? Like I'm not going to bulldoze an idea simply because it's not mine.
Hmm.
If there's something we can make out of it that's useful, we should use it. But I think we need to start thinking about real solutions. I think we need to stop making these terrible financial decisions and wasting money on things that are bad investments and that are not the advice of the experts of the community.
Hmm.
And I think we're going to be needing to laser focus on these core problems because if we fail to address them, you know, I think a lot, we're going to lose, like I said, we're going to lose our public spaces
Hmm.
to these problems.
Hmm.
I think a lot about the 4th Street Mall. Do you remember the 4th Street Mall? It was just south of Civic Plaza. So 4th Street right there south of Civic Plaza used to be paved. You used to have farmers markets and things there.
Oh yes, yes, I do remember that. Yes.
But then it became overrun with the unhoused.
Hmm.
And so our solution was not to solve the problem, not to build the structures that will help people get off of the streets and deal with addiction and mental health and poverty, but to bulldoze the 4th Street Mall. And
Mm.
so now it's just a street. And this is what happens to the rail trail, right? Which is nice. And I think we deserve nice things.
Hmm.
But if we don't, if we are not focusing on these fundamentals, we will lose all of our public spaces in the same way.
I didn't know that was called the Fourth Street Mall. Um, I personally think that that was actually very helpful to the unhoused.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I know when I used to go down there, somebody would buy me a meal, and I had my first interview down there. I didn't get the job because I looked like who done it in 1-4. but I did the opportunity to get the interview,
Mm-hmm.
and that just the opportunity to get interview gave me motivation to, oh,
Mm,
I can go out and get interviewed somewhere else.
I like that.
I
That's
mean,
good.
it
Yeah, I like
happened.
that. I like that.
And I wonder if you could find out how many people get turned away
Mm-hmm.
at the city after if they apply.
Mm, okay. Mm,
Would you change the system of how people get hired or not hired at the city?
I see. I see. Um, I don't know because I don't know their system. The one thing I do know about how the city has been hiring people, a thing that they were been criticized for by the inspector general, is they have the number of unclassified positions has dramatically increased. What that means, right? So there's
Mhm,
in public service, there are classified positions and unclassified positions. A
mhm,
classified position is a position that you apply with a resume that has specific things that they are asking you to have competencies in.
mhm,
And once you have it, you have career protections that you can't be terminated for no reason, right? Like you are a public servant. Unclassified positions, and some will always exist, right? These are ones that people get picked to be put into. Often, what this is supposed to be for is sort of like most senior level advisors to a principal, to a mayor.
mhm,
That makes sense. We should have some of those.
mhm.
But this administration has, I forgot the exact number, but it was by some order of 200 or 300% increase in the number of unclassified positions in the city. What this means is there's a lot of people there with no resumes on file, no qualifications for why they were hired, and I think even more dangerously, no career protections. And so there are people who can be ordered to do whatever needs to happen by this mayor because if they don't, they will be fired.
You know you're taking a lot of shots at the mayor right now, right?
Yeah. I've learned a lot in the past 6 months about how the city is run and about the problems holding it back. And if you have an administration, so like one of the things I always told my people at the US Attorney's Office, who, by the way, I could not fire, right? They all had classification,
Mhm.
which made it nearly impossible to get rid of any of them, which is key, right? Because I could then tell them, I need you to push back against me when I have a bad idea.
Time out, bro. You want people who hold you accountable around you at your office?
That's the only way you get anything effective done. It's the only way you avoid making terrible mistakes. It's the only way you build a system and a government that really truly serves the people because no one person has all the answers. There isn't a one person, right, who is genius level master of the city. It doesn't exist, right? What you need in a chief executive is someone who is able to manage the many problems of many experts, triage and decide the best approach forward, and rely on people when they are telling you it's a good idea or it's a bad idea,
Mm.
right? And if you don't have that around you, you're going to make big mistakes. If your brand of leadership is it's my idea, therefore we're doing it, you will lead us down the wrong path. No matter who you are, no matter how smart you are, right? You have to have we are smarter together collectively with our experiences and our expertise. And if you don't encourage that in your people, you will be a bad leader.
Wow, that's inspirational. So, would you ever hire any of your adversarial candidates on your staff?
I've thought about people's different competencies. I think that I disagree with many of my competitors on a number of things. And so, I think Darren White, hearing him talk, it sounds like he's auditioning for police chief and not for mayor,
Mm,
because everything he talks about is how he wants to arrest everybody and sweep the streets,
okay.
hold people accountable. These juveniles are out of control. And while I have no doubt he has some experience in law enforcement, I don't think it's the right approach and perspective that we need. I think it's outdated. I think his vision of law enforcement is stuck 15 years ago when he left it. I think a lot has happened since then. I would need somebody who's actually able to leap in and understand what's happening on the streets today. Right? We had this conversation the other day, me and him, right, about the fact that like past 15 years, if you haven't been in the game like I have, you wouldn't know guns are sold on Telegram, drugs are sold on Snapchat, what a Glock switch is, like how fentanyl is like there are so many things that have changed, and if you're not fluent in it, you know, you're not equipped to do it.
So not just Darren White. You're the youngest one on
Mm,
running for mayor.
mm.
So are you suggesting possibly, by just a hint, that besides you, most of the people running may be out of touch or at a date they're
Yeah,
not
I mean, I
fully
think
in?
I think when you talk about law enforcement, it's particularly acute. So when I hear Darren talk about law enforcement or Louis Sanchez talk about law enforcement, it shows me that they have not been on the streets in a long time. Um, Folks like Eddie, Varela, who's a really nice guy, have made some proposals, I think, that show they haven't dealt with kids in a long time. One of his proposals is a curfew citywide. And I'm not sure what time because I think it started at 8, now it's at 10.
Hmm.
But uh, the sort of these kids these days are more violent and dangerous than they ever have been. Perspective um, is one that misses the fundamental points of what government is supposed to do, which is take care of our families, take care of our kids, make sure they have safe and free things to do, make sure that they have opportunity and they see opportunity in their future so they don't fall to these other things. I take a different tack on personal responsibility, and parental responsibility. I see all of the kids belonging to all of us. And if the kids are failing, it's all of our fault as the adults. And so if we are not taking care of them, right? The answer is not punish the parents or punish the kids. It's figure out what we need to do collectively as adults to raise good kids.
And we're gonna start winding this down, but I do have to ask, for the sake of real estate realtors, um, there's homes on 55th Street in Central. There's homes on Singing Arrow on Central. You have along all of Central, which is Route 66.
Mhm.
Route 66 has literally built this town.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people who want to sell their homes, but they can't. They want to say, hey, I want to sell this to this buyer, but every time I try to put the house on the market, it gets broken in.
Mm.
How can we move forward and help the next generation of homeowners if the homeowners that want to sell their house and provide and assist the city can't move out of
Mm.
their homes?
Mm. Yeah. I actually haven't thought about that. I mean, beyond the fact, right, that like this ties again to our foundational problems, right? And it's true, right? I mean, like, sure, like we could pay for fences, we could pay for patrols, we could pay, like, we could make all kinds of promises about how we keep properties more secure. But at the end of the day, the solution has to be dealing with crime and homelessness.
You're a Democrat. You keep talking about this crime and homelessness. You don't think that's a little Republican esque?
It's the thing that everybody in Albuquerque says. It's not, I mean, like, it's not my words. I've spoke with thousands of people over the past 6 months. Every one of them names one of those two things, if not both.
Really?
Yeah. And my job, our job as leaders, what we need to do is ground people then in what the solution looks like. This is what makes it so easy for people like Darren White and Luis Sanchez and Eddie Varela to gain traction in this atmosphere, right? Because it is one of fear, it's one of frustration, and it's rightly so. People are frustrated, and that's okay. Like, they have a right to be. But we got to then root this conversation in at what is actually driving it and what the actual solutions are: poverty, mental health, drug addiction.
Mm.
How do we treat these? Does jail work for these? It doesn't. We know it doesn't. We've tried it before. It has failed, and it's expensive, and it's dangerous, and it makes the problem worse.
You are aware you just called these other candidates fear mongers, right?
Yeah. Well,
You
this
do have
is,
that dog in you, huh?
but this is my frustration with the mayor, and it comes back to him, right? Is what you're making these good ideas look bad. You're making these bad ideas look necessary. And that's a direct causation of his failure to implement the policies he said he would do for the city.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go here, but what is the benefit of having you as the mayor? I know you've outlined it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think we had enough time to say for anybody to see that you're a stand up dude. I mean, the way you sound, you might want to just say skip the mayor and be the governor.
Here's the thing
I'm
about
not saying you
the
should do that because we need help. So don't even think about that. Let's do baby steps for all of
with
us.
all due respect to our governor, um, the mayor is the most important position in the state.
Really?
The governor can pass laws and allocate money with the legislature, but none of it means anything if you can't deliver results here in Albuquerque. Albuquerque is the largest metropolitan area. We have the ability, the funding, and the infrastructure to build these programs that are solutions for what we're facing as a state. But if you fail in implementation here, all the money in the world, all the laws in the world, they're all going to fail.
That's big talk. I mean, the governor passed the thing for the free education,
Yeah.
although people aren't using it.
Yeah. Implementation, right? It's implementation. There's all this money, people aren't using it. Why? Because we're failing to implement. We're failing to let people know. We're failing to get them the money. That is the prerogative of the executive and the responsibility, which is to get the things done,
Mm.
right?
Do you need 8 years to help Albuquerque?
Well, let's see what for.
Really?
Let's see what for, right? And then the voters get to choose again.
What if you suck?
Yeah, then vote me out, right? I'm not doing this for me. And like, if you're not happy with the job I'm doing, my life will be better for it.
So my mother used to say this poem. Boy, it pisses me off to this day. As it goes, if there is a job to be done, you do it until it's done. Whether the job is big or small, do it well or not at all.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can self-determine, and if your people around you and the citizens say, "Dude, we loved you at the first 90 days. You suck now." Will you fight the citizens on running again?
Mm-mm.
You won't say, "We're going to stay the course and run for another 4 years." If
No.
you suck, you're going to roll out.
It's two things, right? Like it is both delivering the results and being transparent and accountable to the people, right? And so they're both related. A leader's job is not just to do the things that deliver results, but help people understand that what the results they are getting are, right? And so if you're failing at both of those things, right, or either one of those, then you are not leading well.
And you that leader?
We'll see, right?
I don't know, man. Look, we're going to find out, man.
You'll find out.
We're going to find out if you really get that dog in you, if
Mhm.
you're really that leader.
Yeah.
Because they say, not my words, it's hard to be a good person in politics.
Yes.
And they say that Alex is a good person.
Yes, I think that's right. I think they're right. I think they're right.
That you're a good person, or it's hard to be a good person in politics?
Both are true. Both are true. But that's that is what makes me dangerous, and that is why this mayor is so scared of me, because I actually don't care about my political future, right? I don't. You can threaten me, you can come for me, you can say mistruths and lies about me, and it doesn't hurt my feelings, because none of this has anything to do with my ego. You're not going to hurt my feelings.